Hello and welcome to our session on how to modernize desktop apps into cloud-native AI-powered solutions based on Microsoft Azure. My name is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗲𝗃 and I have my colleague Levie Rufenacht with me. We are super excited to be at Microsoft Build as a featured partner. It's our first time. So let's get started and take a look at what we do here with 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗃. As a quick agenda, we want to explore migration options and share a couple of samples case studies that we did in recent times. And Levie is going to introduce 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗃 to you. We also have a brand new technology coming up with Wisej.AI. We'll give you a quick intro into that and some next steps to follow up with. But first of all, let's look into migration and what we do to take desktop applications, legacy applications, and turn them into web native solutions. So is it really possible taking something that's been running on the desktop for years, maybe decades, and bring this to the browser and to the cloud in just 12 months? Yes, it is, and we want to prove that it works. Using 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗃, we can actually modernize different technologies, most importantly Windows Forms and Windows Presentation Foundation projects, but also Visual Basic 6, as you see here on the right-hand side. This is a public sector application in North America, and we've modernized this into a fully web-based solution. But you can also do the same with Visual Web GUI, or if you have some other older technologies around, such as 𝗬𝗲𝗄 and 𝗬𝗲. The approach that we show you here works for these technologies as well. When we do this and turn this gray application into something modern and cool to use, because it's just a fresh new look and feel, we do retain the business logic as much as possible. So most of the application logic is not really changed. We take the desktop application and turn it into a server-side app running on ASP.NET using framework 4.8 or ASP.NET Core, so the application can also even become in the backend something that's running on Linux. On the front end, you see HTML5 native controls, so it's pure JavaScript, CSS, HTML. And what we do here is design for line of business applications, very complex ones. Some of the examples that we are going to show you have hundreds, if not thousands, of screens. So we really touch applications projects that are really big and that are also very difficult to rewrite by hand. So let's look at one example from a company called Skanska. They have an application for planning and management of large construction projects. So they build airports and skyscrapers and hospitals and highways. And when they do these construction projects, everything that is related to such a project is part of this application, like time planning, material planning, price calculations, all of that. The application has 850 screens, about 4,000 users exited every day, and it's an in-house solution, so really just used internally at Skanska. Pure Windows Forms it was, and developed in C#. It's been developed over, I think, 20-25 years in total, and the estimate for rewriting this into something new with a different architecture was about 25 person-years. So taking, for example, five developers for 5 years would be an appropriate time frame to redo this in something new, in something else as a different technology. For Skanska, this was not a viable option out of several reasons, and they hired us to actually turn this into a single-page application, which is now based on ASP.NET. All features are preserved, they're still there. It's 100% backwards compatible, so all data in the database of construction projects was still accessible, and all the existing features were now transferred to something working in the browser. This didn't work for everything right away. For example, you see a Gantt chart on the right-hand side. That used to be a third-party component in Windows, which was not supported in the browser, obviously. But we found a different solution, added a JavaScript control to support the same feature. Or, for example, Microsoft Excel integration, which happened on the desktop side, was then transferred to an Excel exporting library, which was initiated in the server, providing an Excel spreadsheet as a download. So you can actually keep most, if not all, of the desktop logic and just do it and make it available in the browser as a cloud solution. The project duration, just the core migration that we did was about 6 months, including a light UI refresh that you see here, and the total project duration until rollout was about 1 year, if I remember correctly. Another example is a legal practice and case management solution that's just about to be finished as a project. This is 8 executables deployed on premises with a large number of installations. They all have a local SQL Server database, and the project consists of about 5 million lines of code in C#. The application has a little less than 1,000 views, user controls, either in Windows Forms or in WPF, and a very deep Microsoft Office integration. They looked into rewriting this from scratch and figured that it would take, depending on different estimates, between 8 and 10 years, without saying how many developers you would need for this task. But it's quite a long time frame to redo an application with this maturity from scratch. And this was brought to Wisej.net in a period of 12 months. So out of the existing Windows desktop solution, we made one unified suite that's now being deployed as an Azure App Service. And it's a single-page application, purely based on HTML, JavaScript, CSS. It has, as you can see, a modern look and feel, accessing an Azure SQL database, so some data migrations are also being done in the background. And it has a deep integration with Microsoft 365. So the existing plugins for Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Word got replaced with an API access to the Graph API, and also a deep integration with OneDrive and Outlook Online or Exchange Online, and the other applications from the Microsoft 365 suite. As you see, it's really it's a brand new solution, but all the existing business logic, or the risky part of it, of changing something, of breaking something that used to work before, was really avoided by simply redoing the front end and making sure the application runs in the browser as a cloud-based solution. So some more impressions here from the login screen. As part of the project, we added a nice dashboard using DevExpress dashboards. You can see it on the right-hand side. There are really complex screens, time recordings, a complex reporting system with all kinds of data reports, and a list that are being generated from the application. So a lot of stuff in there, and all of that keeps working as now a web-based application. So in a nutshell, before I hand it over to Levi to explain in more detail how this works and take a look at the technology behind Wisej.net, it's really an easy route to bring applications to the web, to the cloud, and even turn applications into hybrid solutions, because Wisej.net also supports building applications for iOS and Android using parts of the 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗏net SDK. So we do this at a fraction of the time and the cost and the risk of rewriting. It's really a safe approach for modernizing, migrating desktop applications in something new. And it works for really complex applications with a lot of code in there. The project turnaround time, it varies. As you've seen, the 12 months is a good average, but typically we have 6 to 18 months. And that depends on what you want to do, how much you want to change in terms of also UI, UX, how the application is built, how much manual work's involved. Sometimes there's more to do, sometimes less. But in general, it's really a fast approach for web and cloud modernization. So thank you for the moment, and I hand it over to Levi, who's now going to take a look into the details of Wisej.net and how to develop business applications with our technology. Levi, the stage is yours.
All right, thanks, Thomas. So yeah, Wisej.net is a framework for building line of business web applications for ASP.NET or ASP.NET Core. And this is done using the Visual Studio IDE, which we see on the right-hand side here, and the Wisej.net Designer. And so this is installed as a plugin through the Visual Studio Marketplace, and it allows you to visually build your application and see that same visually designed application at runtime using the WYSIWYG Designer. or what you see is what you get. And so with that, in this screenshot here, we'll see a complex form. So we have controls like text boxes, labels, buttons, tabs, that kind of thing. And then on the left, we see a number of different controls. So we can drag and drop controls from the Visual Studio toolbox onto that Wisej.NET Designer and configure every aspect of them. So we can configure the appearance of those controls, and then we can attach to events for those controls as well. So thinking about a text box, you might want to handle a key press event, or key down, or text changed event. All of that's done using C# or Visual Basic. You don't have to touch HTML, JavaScript, or CSS at all. All the APIs between the client, that JavaScript control that you see, and the server, which is C# or Visual Basic, is automatically wired for you when you use Wisej.NET. So Wisej is built for business applications. It manages the kind of complex aspects of enterprise applications such as state handling, session management. So for example, when you refresh the web page, Wisej.NET saves the state of the application, and then when you refresh the application, it will reapply that same exact state. So you can pick up right where you left off. Even if you are halfway done typing through a text field, the application refreshes, that text is exactly where you left it. So there's also a number of controls that are available in Wisej. So there's simple controls like a button, a label, a text box, maybe a date picker. And then there's some more complex controls like a data grid view, a property grid, a data repeater for visualizing complex data sets. There's about 100 plus controls out of the box available in Wisej, but if one of those, or if all of those don't quite meet your needs, there's control sets for DevExpress, Sync Fusion, Progress. All of the major component vendors have control sets available in Wisej.NET. And you can drag and drop the controls from these vendors onto the designer and configure every aspect of them without having to touch HTML, JavaScript, or CSS. So when we drag and drop a control from that toolbox in Visual Studio onto the Wisej.NET Designer, we're actually rendering two components. So we're rendering a client-side JavaScript component in the browser, and we're creating a C# or Visual Basic object on the server. And these two components are always synchronized. So if I change one on the one on the client, all those changes are automatically synchronized with the corresponding server-side object. And this is done using JSON and WebSocket. So for example, I have an input element in the browser, and I start typing in it. Every single key down, key press, key up event is wired to the server. So all the text changes are sent to the server as well. And the same thing goes the other route. So if I'm on the server and I do textbox.text equals some value, that change is pushed immediately to the client browser using JSON and WebSocket. So the two are always synchronized. So how can you add AI to a Wisej.NET application, and what does that look like? So Wisej.AI is an extension of the Wisej.NET framework, and it allows you to integrate AI functionality into your ASP.NET or ASP.NET Core application. You can use any number of AI providers, so Ollama, OpenAI, Anthropic, some model from Hugging Face. All of these providers are available, and even local providers, so you're able to keep your enterprise data local on your own servers without having to send it to OpenAI servers or something like that. In the screenshot here, we have an example of chatting with a document. So we can ask any question we want about that PDF on the right-hand side here and get answers from it in our chat box. So we could ask for a summary of the document, or maybe an analysis of some tables that are inside of the PDF. But that's just one small feature of Wisej.AI, and that works with any and all of the providers I talked about earlier. The same goes for these features. You can use them with any of the providers, but there are integrations for smart pasting. So I can take unstructured text, and maybe I copy a email signature into the clipboard on my computer. And then when I click a button in my application, I want to parse that email and put the first name in its own field, the last name of the email signature in its own fields, the website, the email address of the user, and I can do that using the Smart Paste functionality. Smart charts allow you to generate charts from prompts. So I can say what kind of chart I would like to create and pass in a data source. So maybe that's a Microsoft SQL Server data source. And the AI provider will generate a SQL query that will build the data set I need for my chart based on that information. Semantic filtering allows us to search not just for specific keywords, but also results related to those keywords. So maybe this is something like I type fruit in a combo box, and some of the items in the dropdown are apple, banana, orange. So not that word exactly, but words related to that word that I entered in for the search. So there's also smart navigation, which we call Copilot, which allows you to use queries or type in a chat box to navigate to various places within your application. So maybe you want to create a new client. So you type in the chat box, create a new client. The application and the AI provider turns that into a command, which then opens that specific functionality within your Wisej.net application. There's also smart suggestions. So as I'm typing an email or filling out some kind of field, the AI provider can suggest completions to your sentence or your paragraph based on your application's context and whatever data you provide. But yeah, so that is a general introduction on Wisej.net and Wisej.AI. I'll hand it back over to you, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Levi. Wisej.AI is just amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on it and start playing with it. I look forward to learn much more about this. So yeah, I hope you liked what you saw today. And if you want to learn more about Wisej.net and Wisej.AI, feel free to go to our website, Wisej.com. We have a free analysis to better understand and evaluate the modernization and migration process. There are a number of case studies to look into from customers around the world, and we have a free evaluation version and also a community edition of Wisej.net for download. So yeah, just stop by and take a look. If you want to reach out, we'd be happy to hear your feedback, your comments on the session. Here are our contact details. Just drop us a note. And yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. Enjoy Microsoft Build.